We meet again, and a very good evening to you in this new year 2021. Haunted Houses 1907. C.G. Harper. Great book. Been some time since I picked it up. Of course, Christmas got in the way. Among other things as well, which we're still going through now, which you're fully aware of. Story here. A higher Chilton farm in the village of Chilton, Cantelo, Somerset. This is the headpiece of one Theophilus Brome, who died August the 18th, 1670, aged 69, and was buried in the north transept of Chilton Cantelo Church. The epitaph over him, declaring that he was a man just in his actions of this life, true to his friends, forgave those who wronged him, and died in peace. He came of the Broms of Woodlost near Warwick, which is not too far away from where we are now, here. From Warwick, the reasons that induced him to live down south in the county of Somerset, which I actually love. I adore the countryside. It's wonderful, rolling green meadows, hills, and of course the Mendip Hills, those famous range of hills down there, loaded with copper and lead mines all over the place. Fantastic place steeped in history. Anyway, back to the story. I tend to sidetrack a lot, but it's only because of my enthusiasm for life, which I love. I really do. Let's start again then. He came of the Broms of Woodlost near Warwick. The reasons that induced him to live down south in the county of Somerset do not appear, but it was always understood that he had been engaged on one or other down the page side in the civil war between Charles II and his Parliament, and was the victim of persecution from the party to which he was opposed. Collinson, in his History of Somerset, referring to Chilton Cantelo and Brome, says there is a tradition in this parish that the person here interned requested that his head might be taken off before burial and be preserved in the farmhouse near the church, where a head, chock full and off, is still shown. Wow. Which the tenants of the house have often endeavoured to commit to the bowels of the earth, but have as often been deterred by horrific noises portentive of sad displeasure, and about 20 years since, which was perhaps the last attempt, the sexton, in digging the place for the skull's repository, broke his spade in two places, and uttered a solemn asseveration never more to attempt an act so evidently repugnant to the quiet of Brome's head. It may be added to the foregoing extract that Philip Higden, a native of the parish who died in 1826 at the advanced age of 95 years, stated that it was always said that Brome was a gentleman who had lived in the middle counties in the troublesome times and had come therefrom to Chilton, but he had never heard any reason assigned for his removal, nor for the wish to have the head cut off and kept in the house. Perhaps it was an execution then, we'll say. The circumstances, however, of Brome's change of residence from one of the Midland counties, coupled with the mention of the troublous times and his age at the time of his decease, together with the directions given for cutting off his head before his burial, seems to favour the conjecture that he had been actively engaged in the civil commotions of the reign of Charles I. It is a matter of general notoriety that at the time of the Restoration, the bodies of many of the regicides, as well as others who had taken an active part against the monarchy, were, in a fruitless spirit of revenge, taken up from their burial places and their heads cut off. Oh, I see. It's kind of like a retribution, vengeance, and their heads cut off and exposed in different places. That Brom was a man of family, the arms borne by him at a time when such distinctions were less common than now, sufficiently prove. They are sable on a chevron argent, 3 sprigs of broom, proper, and are engraved on his tomb, surrounded by statuary or emblems, and the inscription sets forth that he was true to his friends and forgave those who wronged him, which would seem to imply that he had in some respects considered himself an object of persecution. And though there is no particular mention of his name in the history of those days, it is not unreasonable to suppose that he had been an active spirit in these contentions and duly suffered for his activity. Higher Chilton Farm is a substantial and very superior farmhouse, long since the property of the Goodford family, whose arms are carved over the entrance together with the date of its restoration, or almost complete rebuilding in 1826. The truth of the story that the skull preserved in the house is that of Theophilus Brom, was proved during the restoration of the church some 45 years since, when Brom's tomb was opened and the skeleton discovered minus the head. And until a few years since, the skull was kept in one of the living rooms in the house, and in spite of the legend that disturbances would arise if it were even moved a hand's breadth, was frequently given a new place. Nothing, of course, happened. It now resides in a cupboard or cabinet made specially for it, in an appropriately 17th century style, and placed over a door in the hallway. Only the teeth are missing. When the house was under restoration, the workmen filled the skull with beer and drank out of it. Good heavens. A ghastly freak in which some will perhaps find the influence of heredity. Very remote ancestors and savages all the world over being accustomed to drink out of the skulls of their deceased enemies. But the incident does not say much for the intellectual development of the race in all those centuries. That's the end of that particular story. There's an engraving in the book. The book's a fairly early one. There's no photographs of the farm, of the Chilton Farm, and there's the church. And they tried the skull, moving it, and it caused disturbances in the farmhouse. They tried moving it, burying it in the churchyard, you see, and it ended up to keep the peace in the house in Somerset, and that's a favourite county of mine. There we are, haunted houses, 1907. Cracking book, love reading it. Nice to see you. All the best until we meet again. Goodbye for now.